Well, good morning to all you folks out there. Thank you so much for joining us today on this, our first live interview on the Fiber Guild. And I'm Michael Groves. I'm the founder of Dwarven Enterprises. And in fact, we're here primarily for education. And you may seem to think that's strange having, we're a company, we like selling product, of course, but most of all, we love the area of education and creativity. In fact, that's one of the things that got me into this whole business, really. And I've seen so many pictures from many of you over the past year or so of your creativity. And anyway, that's really fantastic. So what I want you to do, though, is if you've got questions, you can put them onto the Facebook Fiber Guild page, and I will see those, and then I can ask Paul those questions. If I can work out how to put them up on the screen at the same time, I can do that too. Anyway, that's enough for an introduction. What I'd like to do is, of course, introduce you to Paul McCarty. But before I do that, I just want to remind you that he was the one who actually wrote an article in Model Railroader magazine, January 2021. Now, I don't know about you, but I've never got myself in a model railroad magazine or any type of modeling magazine. In fact, it's a long time since I ever wrote an article that got into a journal. So congratulations, Paul, on that. So without further ado, let me introduce Paul to you. Well, I'm so sorry, Paul. People have often got your name confused, but let me introduce the real Paul McCarty, who actually lives in Draper, Utah. He lives there with his wife, Rebecca, and his grandchildren. Notice I didn't say children. Grandchildren are much more important than children, as we all know as we get older. He was a professor at Brigham Young University in psychology, and yet he really appeals to me more like an engineer because he got involved as a director of light rail operations. Can you imagine that? In Utah, and all of you who went to the 2019 NMRA meeting will remember riding on the light rail. Well, that's somewhat courtesy of Paul McCarty, our Paul McCarty here. Now, besides railroading, Paul enjoys camping, fishing, canoeing, and genealogy. So I'm not sure if I got the canoeing's right, and the genealogy. So and he's a member of the Wasatch N-Scale Model Railroad Club of Utah. So with that as an introduction, let me bring on Paul. Greetings, Paul.
Good greetings, and thank you for the introduction. You're very generous, and I love the Beatles.
Oh, you do? Good. I'm glad. Well, for all of those out there, when I type Paul McCartney, sometimes it's just but I've got his name, got Paul, got your name right there. So let's start with this. So when did you start on model railroading, Paul?
Well, I was about 10 years old, or actually I was 6 years old. I was about in the mid 50s, and my grandfather gave me for Christmas a Lionel O gauge, and it was so much fun. And then when I was 10, I switched to HO, primarily because there was an article in Boys Life magazine that talked about HO and a layout that I absolutely loved, and I was enthusiast in that until I finally switched to N-Scale.
Oh, what made you switch to N-Scale, Paul?
Well, we moved to a new house with less space than what the layout allowed, and so I had to switch. It was by necessity from HO to N-Scale. And so it was a larger scenery to track ratio, and I had to reduce everything. And when it came to lighting, the techniques I used in HO were not going to be able to fit N-Scale as well as I wanted it.
What were the techniques you were using, Paul?
Well, the techniques that I was using was, as regarding lighting, was primarily LEDs, the small grain of wheat bulbs and light emitting diodes, but the wiring was a drawback. And I had all kinds of wiring underneath the layout for lighting and structures and accent lighting, but it soon became a total confused and tangled mess.
I can imagine. I can imagine. So your article talked about an eye-opening experience when you encountered the fiber optics. What was that eye-opening experience for you? I'm always interested to understand what happened.
It was you, Michael.
Oh.
I attended the 2019 National Model Railroad Association convention here in Salt Lake City, and as I was going through the program brochure, there was a very curious but intriguing clinic entitled "Lighting Without Wiring," and I wasn't disappointed. And it came from you. You and your wife were there and gave the clinic. And I was absolutely fascinated that you had products that used a single light source and from structures and glow fiber optics that delivered the light. I was amazed because you had broken the law of physics.
Oh, no.
No, it wasn't your fault. It's just that you might say amended it a little bit and tweaked it. Light, you understand, cannot bend. Well, you proved that with cable. And then light does not have heat, and with fiber at the single light source, as the light streams through. So this suddenly gave me all kinds of possibilities that I could use, and lots of reasons why I switched from fiber lighting, from a conventional to fiber optic lighting.
Well, thanks for that, Paul. So what we're going to do is, I think you prepared some slides for us, and we're going to be looking at those. I just have one quick apology, which is Paul's meant to be on the right-hand side of this, but for some reason the cameras decided not to work that way. So for the moment, we are just going to have the slides. So Paul, let's see what you got here.
Okay. Well, the first slide that I have is pretty much my layout. In fact, this layout goes back to when I was 10 years old. It's called the Smoky Mountain Gorge Railroad, and it's from an actual site, and it fit into my study, into where I was kind of limited. And you can see the lighting. The lighting is situated in such a way so that it represents to scale about 35 to 40 feet scale feet between each other, and then it was, I try to get as realistic as possible. There's something else behind this, is that to me, when I was putting this together, you mentioned that I was interested in genealogy. I'm interested in my own, personal history. And so this was a way in which all the places that it represented on that layout were special to me in growing up and through my years. And so the lighting just added the special magic to it.
Great, Paul. Super.
Let me go to the next slide. In the next slide that I have, it's a covered bridge. And this was the one that was in the lead photo in the story in their national and model railroader. It's over the rapids of the Colorado. We've done a lot of rafting over the Colorado River, and so you have a lighted bridge. Obviously, you don't have a covered bridge over the Colorado River, but this represents, my visiting New England and the covered bridges there. It's wooden, and then with light inserted. And then over to the right, you have a little farmhouse with a swan lamp coming in at a 90-degree angle there, and which represents a yard light, farm yard light that is represented. You can't see it very well, but in the distance there, you have the barn where I've had, I put fiber cable in the barn, and then over to the right, if you blew up the picture a little bit there, we have an old box car that I transformed into a tool shed that has it there. One of the things that I got excited about is on the upper right-hand corner, you have a cave on the mountainside. And I have a couple slides that will show a little bit more about that. And that was exciting. And it started opening my eyes to what fiber can really do and what you can really do with fiber. And so let me go to the next slide here. This was after I attended your clinic, Michael. I went home and I bought your light source and your cable, and I inserted the first swan lamp, and right next to a city hall that I had built, and there's a man standing in front reading a lamp, and I just put it right there, and bingo, it just seemed to fit because it just brought the realism to life. That was really exciting. I've got this second photo of the same is more of a close-up, so you can see what it can do. And the exciting thing about fiber lighting is that it's more natural, and then also you can mute it. I've just as you insert the cable into the light source, how far away from the original light source, single light source you can do, you can dim it. So if it's too bright, you can always dim it down. Let me go into the next one. I'm a big fan of Bluebell ice cream. I don't know if there's any other
Hey!
And so I made this truck, and the back of the truck is out of the freezer in the back is made out of balsa wood, and I went on to paint it. And there's nothing out there on the internet for Bluebell stickers and that type of thing. So I went on their website and I reduced it as small as I could to N scale, put it there, and then put it next to the swan lamp, and came out pretty well. I'm just so pleased. Look carefully at the swan lamp, where you can see the light intensity coming down, and then there's a border with the dark which is so natural. It's something that I could not achieve with conventional or LED lighting. Let me show you the next one that I had fun with. It's an ice cream stand. Again, I'm a big Bluebell ice cream. This represents, when I was raised by my grandfather, and he would always take me to the park, and there would be a little stand just like this, where we would we'd have a little table and eat the ice cream. And, I don't know, it's something about fiber that just really excites the imagination and creativity and just makes things come real. It's a medium to memory that you'd be able to, for me, that you're able to create. The next one I have is, I was so excited, Michael, when you came out with railroad crossings. And not only the railroad crossings, but also you came out with the fiber light controllers, the flashing lights. And so I put that in. I've got I made another ice cream truck and put it right next to it. And then this is in the daylight. And then the next one has it at night. And, it's the mood that fiber can give is just very exciting. You notice that there's a blue there.
Yeah, I noticed that, Paul. It comes through quite nicely. What is that, Paul?
That is what I call moon glow. my biggest cheerleaders in this whole thing have been my grandkids, as you mentioned. And they were constantly turning off the lights in the room because they wanted to see the lights. And I thought, well, I can't really quite see the rest of the layout. So I experimented with 4mm fiber cable, and did everything from painting it with translucent blue paints to even other things that I did, and I'll be showing more detail of that. Anyway, the final outcome is that I got a blue light, or moon glow, which my grandkids call, because it's kind of like the glow of the moon. And so it just made everything so exciting. In the next slide that I have is, I want to explain about the medium of using cellophane with fiber. It's something that I discovered, and having all kinds of effects with that. Let's see if I can get that next slide up here. There it is. Remember that first slide that I showed you, or the one of the covered bridge, and I mentioned about the cave in the distance on the mountainside. And so I built a cave, and I strung the fiber cable up and through, and it was so much fun doing this. It was something that if I tried to do it with conventional wiring, I would just, which I have tried in the past, it was just a mess, and I don't think I would be able to have the effect that I wanted. But I'm going to show you the next slide, because this is where I got super excited. I do a lot of camping with my family, and one area that we just love to go down to is in southern Utah, in some of the Anasazi ruins. And there's some petroglyphs down there. And again, as I said before, you might say this layout is my life story. And so I painted to N scale. I don't know if you can see it, if we can, but you can, over to the right, there's a Native American standing in front of the cave. And then there is a petroglyph behind him. And I was so excited that it came up, and the fiber was able to reflect on the wall but not wash it out. And the way I was able to attain this is I rolled up a small ball of cellophane, and it was the same blue cellophane that I'd used on the moon glow, and I put it over the single strand of fiber, the end that came up. So you had you had the reflection on the left, but it beautifully gave the illumination of the petroglyphs that I had painted behind the figure in the front. Let me go into the next slide here. This is more of what I was mentioning about this moon glow, or this blue lighting that I had in there. And again, it's a 4mm cable, fiber cable, and which is a lot larger than the 0.75 and the 1mm that we can get through you, Michael. And I scored it, and a lot of this inspiration is, I remember when you showed last year about how you could do Christmas lights. And so I scored it, and then placed it inside a wrapping of blue cellophane. It's hard to photograph blue, but and then I put the cable around the outside edges of the layout, as close to the top I possibly could, but I didn't want it to be seen. And then the effect is what you see. And then the next slide, let me get the next slide up here. You can see how it affects the whole room, and with the lighting of the swan lamps, and also the lighting that I have of the fiber cable that I have in the buildings. I am just so pleased, Michael, of what your fiber cable can do with the mood. It looks like something out of a Thomas Kincaid painting, you know? And talk about a magnet for my family, especially my grandkids. They just want to see the Christmas pictures, is what they're calling it, and or seeing Christmas there on my layout. Even though I don't have Christmas decorations, they equate the mood into what they have seen, like a Thomas Kincaid winter scene or something like this. But anyway, it's been a heck of a lot of fun. In the next slide, let me get that one up. This one is kind of the opposite direction that you can see. I have put I have a clock tower in the forefront, and I have illuminated with the swan lamps. And then over to the right there, you have a church in which I have the swan lamp illuminating the church and the people in front of it. And then the station house, and then the general store in the background. And then I have a post office there too. But you can see how the moon glow really affects the layout. So like I said, we rarely have the lights on anymore on the layout. It's always, the overhead lights in the lidded room. It's all the room lights are shut off so that we can see the fiber. Let me go to the next one. Let's see if I can get it up here.
Oh, Paul, that is a beauty. Whoa, that's fantastic.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun putting this one together, and it was, I think I took about 25 pictures, and they all came out pretty much the same. This is what you typically see on the layout, and there is just no way you could get that with conventional lighting. Just absolutely no way. And it just the mood lighting that it gives, and the radiation. I don't know if you can see in the background how it radiates back to the backdrop that I have there. And as we go into this, look in the upper right-hand corner. I wanted to emphasize that one up there in just a second here. Let me go to the next slide and explain that a little bit more. The next slide I have is a lighthouse. And putting the lighthouse together, I have I put the fiber cable up and through the top, and I didn't score it at first. I just had the end lit, and it just didn't look right. And because I go for realism as much as I possibly can, and so what I did is I pulled it out and I scored it on the sides like I did with the moon glow cable that I showed you, and that just didn't work out too. It looked like there was multiple lights inside the beacon, and it just didn't look right. And so I kept on. I had actual photographs of this lighthouse, and what I did, the end result was in the next slide that I'll get up here. In the next slide that I have.
Hold a minute, Paul. Before we do, there's a question for you, which is
sure.
What is the background that Paul is using? I'm not sure if that's a clear enough question for you.
Are you referring to the slide previous? Let's go back to the slide previous.
Maybe that's maybe that's.
That is an old 35 millimeter slide screen. I had a regular backdrop, but I noticed, and this is an excellent question. I want to thank the listener for asking this. When I put up, I'm using now 35 millimeter slide projector screens, the kind that you store in your closet and you have the little rod that goes up and you pull it up for your projector. You just can't find them anymore, except you go to thrift stores or, but the fiber lighting reflects so beautifully off the screen itself. Right now, in my being live, right behind me, I have the screen. I used it to kind of block the books and everything the clutter that I have in the room where I have the computer. But the screen is just, I highly recommend it as a backdrop. Many people put scenery in their backdrop, and I've got a slide coming up where I've got a module for my a 4x2 module that I'm just finishing with my train club, where I've actually have a backdrop, because I had to have a backdrop because it had to match what the other club members had. But for my own home layout in the basement, I have the slide screens from the old 35 millimeter slides that used to show. And again, I was so excited about the reflection.
Well, actually, Paul, what it gives to me is I called this the Thomas Kincaid picture, because it looks like there's this thunderstorm that's going on, and the sun's coming in on that side where the lighthouse is, and there's all these bright lights, just beautiful colored lights, and it's just, yeah. But maybe we should take a bit of a look at that lighthouse. How you actually.
Yeah, let me go back to the lighthouse here. So as I was explaining that I wasn't getting the right lighting. So what I did is that I got a translucent white straw, like a cocktail straw. And it was just small enough in the diameter and the hole in the middle to be able to put a 1 millimeter fiber cable up through it. But before I did, and this is something you can't do with regular conventional lighting, because conventional lighting has heat, and I was going to make an enclosed space. Notice very closely in the inside of the lighthouse itself, in the beacon room, there is cellophane. And I cut a long strip of cellophane, so I had at least a double wrap in there. And I put the cellophane in there. Then I put the fiber cable inside the straw up through the top, and it completely matched the real lighthouse beacon tubes that they have in lighthouses. And in fact, I even had to dim it a little bit because it was a little bit too bright, and I didn't want it to offset the brightness of the rest of the layout. And so and that's the beauty, again, of fiber. You can just, you pull the cable in and out toward to the original light source, and you can dim or brighten it. And so I ended up having to what you see now. So I am very excited about that. In fact, I got another I made another lighthouse, and I put it on the on the next slide. Let me go into the next one. This is what I'm doing. This is a 4x2 module for my train club, and we've got a couple shows coming up. One show in Cheyenne, another one coming up here in Utah, and I have in the scenery, the backdrop is of a seascape, and it's supposed to be in Maine, and you can see the lighthouse, and on the right, on the rock formation that I put together, and then the the keeper's house. But I wanted to do something else, and so I know one of your viewers, one of your members, have did a wonderful job of putting lighting on a runway, and I thought, well, how about lighting on a heliport? And so, in the next slide, you can see what I've done.
Nice job,
I
Paul.
I did not make the Jayhawk N-scale helicopter. I scoured the internet for one that was, you might say, 1/72nd of the original size, and I did find one that was an N-scale. And then I made the helipad, and that was a lot of fun. And then to highlight the helipad, to put the landing lights, I put 8 75 or 0.75 millimeter fiber cable under, and it will be and I in a still picture you can't get flashing, but I put the flashing unit on, and so that it has a flashing and synchronized, and there's the flashing of the landing light. So it's exciting. So this is on the module that I'll be taking to train shows. And also, Michael, I wanted to really highlight my enthusiasm for fiber. So I'm going to have this lit, and then also it was a lighthouse and the keeper's house, and I don't know. I'm going to go back to that other slide really quick. Let me get to the slide previous to that. Oops, I went too far. There it is. Notice that this is a seascape, and you can't see it very well, but this is a photograph that's been blown up, and you can see the sailboats in the background. Notice the cutout there. That cutout will be an extension of the sea. And what I'm experimenting right now is bioluminescence.
Really?
And I'm experimenting on ways to put the fiber cable underneath and then just scatter the light so that it appears of the glow of bioluminescence on the sea at night when you're on a ship or a boat, and you're settling the algae,
Right,
and allowing them to have this light source.
fantastic. So, that's a very creative.
I'll
never
keep you posted. I'll keep you posted on that one.
Wow, that is just superb. That's just great. And
let me go to this one. I have to give the credit for my motivation to my grandchildren. This is little Philip, who is on the right, and little Rachel, who is on the left. Philip is 4, Rachel is 2. And when the grandchildren come over, it's so interesting. They obviously they want to go straight to the layout, turn off the lights, and they know how to run the trains. I have a DCC and sound on my locomotive, so that's super cool to them. And then they get some pillows and sit underneath the layout. And so they just love it because they say it's magic. It's magic, Grandpa. So yeah, so fiber cable gives you illumination on the top and lots of excitement on the bottom too.
Wow, that's so fantastic. I just got a note from somebody who says, "Love this picture." And I must admit, it is just capturing just the face, everything about it, lots and lots of fun. So, well, this has really been fantastic, Paul. I just wanted to thank you for this. And Paul, you're obviously really enjoy creativity in everything you do. That's sort of very, very obvious to me. So yeah, and I was going to ask you, what are your new plans? Well, you've just disclosed some of those, which is just fun.
Well, I love camping, and I camp up. There is some in the Uintas here, the high Uintas of Utah. Lots of elk, lots of deer. So one day I thought, what about a deer in the headlights? So that's what I'm trying to experiment right now. It's kind of hard, but thank you for your 0.75 millimeter cable. So I'm trying to put cable into the eyes of a deer and
Right.
standing on a road, and where oncoming car is coming. And then you showed us how to put cable into the headlights of a car. So that's my next thing, is a deer in the headlights. I had a lot of success with the campfire on the cave. And so I'm now building the glow of a campfire in the forest.
Oh, nice.
And I was thinking, I love the moon glow, so I'm trying to put together a winter scene with snow twinkling in the moonlight, and so I'm adjusting that. I've got my grandkids wanted me to do stars and distant lights on a scenery backdrop, so we'll see what happens with that one. That would take a lot of cable, and but I'm everything from a light on a worker's helmet to a small lantern hanging on a porch, backlighting for a billboard. Lights. I've even thought, as model railroaders, we really don't illuminate our tunnels. And I thought, because our tunnels we leave unfinished. And I thought, wow, what if? So I am illuminating, I'm building some tunnel lights so that I can finish the inside of tunnels and have that as another area that we could look at. I asked my grandkids about ideas, and they said, well, they want a realistic volcano and lava flow with fiber cable. So that's the next one too they were trying to do. And then they wanted to light a house on fire. So we're trying to do that with both cellophane and fiber, and then a small fan underneath to blow the cellophane back. So these are just some of the things that I'm trying to get. I just say that, don't hesitate in using your imagination. I've told you before that fiber really does open the door to realism and endless possibilities. So
Great.
It's exciting.
Paul, thank you so much for joining us today. You are an exciting person from the point of view of the imagination, but more than that, you actually get it done and experiment with it. And obviously that's part of what we would love to be doing. So hats off to you. And Paul, I'm just going to release you and let you enjoy the rest of your Friday. And again, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Michael. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
So, well, thank you guys for joining. There has been a question, which is there a concern about looking right into the fiber coming from the box? And my answer to that is, yeah, I don't like looking at that, especially if you've got a 1.5 millimeter fiber. So generally, I don't never look down the light directly from the box, because that's jolly intense. And you won't be seeing for quite a while. But no, but just being careful with it. So thank you so much for your time with us today. What I'd like you to do is obviously like us on Facebook, and obviously for you folks who are live with us today, I just really appreciate your being with us. And we're going to be following up once a month with live interviews. Now, if any of you out there feel bold enough, you don't have to go as long as Paul. I'm not saying he went long, but you could do a short segment, even a 10-minute one, where you might want to show something that you've done that's creative and really can be educational for us all. I am constantly being educated by all of you guys out there. So once again, thanks so much, and enjoy the rest of your Friday. Bye for now.